Hey everybody out there, you're tuned in to 91.8 The Fan. You're in my corner and I have a very special guest in the corner. Would you like to unveil your secret identity?
Hi, sure. I'm Graham Smith from DrinkBox Studios.
He's like, that wasn't a secret, but you can have
Yeah.
it anyway. He stalks the night, taking juice boxes from children. No, I'm kidding. But no, I'm very happy to have you on the show. I actually remember when your previous title, Guacamole, came out, and we talked about it a ton on the show. And for a while, we tried to have bets. We did this after hours, where how long can any of us go without cursing? and trying to get some of the extra trophies because I'm very much a completionist. So I went and did everything in Guacamole, and then you guys came out with DLC like a few months later, and I was like, no.
Oh yeah, and some of those challenges are pretty tough in Guacamole, that's for sure. Yeah.
I really adored it though. The very first time I
Thank you.
saw that title was I'd seen it and heard of it, but the first time I got to play it was at the Consumer Electronics Show actually, and
Oh. Was it in the Sony booth that you saw that?
yeah, it was in the
Yeah.
Sony booth with all they had like 12 different Vitas set up, and there wasn't an attendant there, so I picked up the game and I was just a chicken, and then Flamehead was there, and I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm a chicken. It's a great introduction.
That's funny.
But yeah, I love the general aesthetic to that game, and I like the fact that even though it deals with some darkness, it's actually very bright.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that's true. And Severed is it deals with darkness a lot more than Guacamole, but it still has a very bright, like a bright and very colorful art style. So there's like a big contrast between like the tone of the story and the tone of the visuals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that really struck me the very first time I got a chance to play Severed,
yeah,
specifically because it's like, oh, everyone is dead.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah. Unlike Guacamole is a very lighthearted story. Severed has a much darker story. Because well, I guess like the company's been working on platforming games since we started in 2008, and we kind of needed to take a little bit of a break and exercise our design chops in something new. So we decided with Severed to branch out and do something that's not a platformer and do something that's not silly, that's not completely silly and humorous, and exercise those muscles a little bit, those creative muscles. So that's kind of where that's coming from. With Severed, at the beginning of the game, for those who don't know or who are not familiar, you wake up in the desert. You play as this young woman named Sasha, and she wakes up in the desert at the beginning of the game, and she's missing an arm, and she's having like flashbacks of like this traumatic event that happened to her and her family where she lost her arm, and she sets off on a quest to try and find out where her family members have gone.
Mm.
Um, she's in this strange, surreal, limbo-like world that's not familiar to her. So she's kind of learning with the player, like where she is and what's happened to her family, and trying to piece together the events that occurred. So it's very different from Guacamole, and you don't get to turn into a chicken at any point.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But, well, you know what struck me as really intriguing is the fact that it has more of a dungeon crawler kind of system to it, and that was something I didn't expect out of you guys. So I'm very happy to see that as someone who loves old classic, RPGs and dungeon crawlers.
Yeah, it's true that genre of games has kind of like disappeared. I know when I was growing up, there was like lots of those games. I used to love playing like Betrayal, like Condor, and in recent memory, there's only very few standouts like Legend of Grimrock. So yeah, that's kind of how the game's navigation mechanics are very old school dungeon crawler, where you're like moving from node to node. Um, you're kind of limited. It's basically the whole world is like a giant grid, and you're just kind of moving between the grid squares. But then the interaction is also pretty unique in that we're using the touchscreen on the Vita to do all of the game's combat, and so it's similar in style to like a game like Infinity Blade, where the enemies are in front of you and you're using your finger as kind of as a sword to like parry their attacks and break through their defenses and counterattack, and um, so Infinity Blade, I would say, is like the closest example of a game that's like the combat of Severed, except Infinity Blade, all the enemies are very similar to each other. And in Severed, we put a couple of additional spins on it where every enemy is unique, and the mechanics for each enemy that you have to fight is completely different from every other enemy. And also, we drop you into battles that surround you with enemies, so you're kind of switching Bruce Lee style between the different opponents as they're queuing up their attacks. So you have to quickly like spin around, parry the guy behind you, counterattack him, then spin to the guy to the left and parry him and counterattack him. So it's kind of this frantic combination, because every time you spin to a new enemy, you have to remember, okay, how do I parry this guy's attacks? And then you do it, and then you have to counterattack him correctly. So that's really where Severed kind of stands out from other games, where I haven't really seen any other games that had this kind of touch-based sword fighting combat with multiple enemies before. So.
Well, I think it's really exciting, especially the way you guys are utilizing the Vita. I'm a big supporter of the Vita. I know the rest of the world has kind of been like meh, but me personally, the Vita is a great handheld. I still take it with me whenever I travel.
I play my Vita every day still.
Yeah, like there's I like sort of you get like some very niche type of games that you don't get anywhere else. That I feel like are underappreciated, and I really love that. But you guys are actually huge supporters of the Vita. You've put 3 games. Well, you're about to put your 3rd game on the Vita, technically. How do you feel about the future for the handheld?
I don't know. I have mixed feelings. Like as I said, I love the Vita. I play my Vita. I use my Vita every day. And sometimes I'm using it to, stream PS4 games because, my wife is watching something on television, so I don't have access to the TV. But I've been playing The Witness mostly on my Vita right now. Sometimes I use it for Netflix, but still, I'm always playing games on it as well. And it's my favorite handheld that's out there. Severed, when we first started the project, we weren't sure what platforms it was going to be on. We always wanted Vita to be part of that. But as we started developing it, because of the touch-based nature of the Vita, like it has a touchscreen and it has the D-pad and analog sticks. Mm-hmm. Severed feels perfectly made for the Vita because you can walk around the world using the D-pad or the analog sticks, and you can interact with the combat using the touchscreen. And the touchscreen is a fantastic touchscreen, so it's a great device for it for the game. And historically, like we put a launch game out on Vita, Mutant Blobs Attack, and then Guacamelee also launched on Vita at the same time as PS3, and it had cross-buy and cross-play. And the Vita's done really well for us. We've sold a lot of copies on Vita, and we're really happy with it. As for the future of the Vita, I think it's a bit uncertain. Like you can kind of see Sony's support of it seems to be fading a little bit, but at the same time, it's still my favorite handheld device. So I still want to keep making games for it as long as it makes sense to do so. Yeah.
Well, I'm relieved that, the Vita sales and business on it has treated you guys well, because that would really be a shame. It's like we were unsure, so this is kind of a crapshoot. So
yeah.
But no, I'm excited for that, and I know that a lot of the staff actually have Vitas as well, and are really looking forward to the game, because I could, I guess, potentially see you using the touchpad on the PS4, but I feel like it wouldn't have the same the same fluidity to it.
Yeah, the bigger problem is, well, the touchpad's resolution is not as good, the touch resolution is not as good as the Vita's screen, but the bigger problem is that we rely pretty heavily on being able to see what you're touching. Mm-hmm. Like you need to have a lot of accuracy. Like, for example, one of the enemies has a little eyeball in his center that opens up when he's vulnerable, and you have to be able to see when the eye opens, and you have to be able to see exactly where to slash your finger across to hit the eyeball. So trying to do that without the image underneath your finger is a lot more difficult. So that's kind of one of the restrictions. You're right. It would be great to be able to release on PS4 and have like a huge PS4 audience, have access to the game. But we don't want to put it out somewhere where the experience is not going to be, the best experience possible. So.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually think the enemy you're talking about, because when I played it, and this isn't the latest demo of Severed, I played it at a PlayStation experience the first year. So
Yeah.
not when it was at San Francisco, but at Los Angeles. I want the fans to know that. So, but I think it was the eye enemy, because I remember somebody from your staff like was behind me, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we got to make this more obvious," because like,
Yeah.
I kept dying to. I was like, "What am I doing wrong? You stupid," like.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that was the first time we had the game shown publicly, and so that was like a giant playtesting session for us. We learned a lot of lessons, and I can assure you, it's much improved now. Yeah, the current state of the game is that we're really close to being done. We're just bug fixing. The game is, content complete. But every day we have someone in the office playtesting. Some external person will come in, and they'll play through the game over a period of 2 or 3 days. And we're just watching, like as they're playing it, we're streaming a video out to everybody's desktop, so everyone's kind of watching in the corner of their screen, just tuning and balancing and making sure there's no areas of confusion and making sure there's no difficulty spikes. So thankfully, almost all that stuff's been worked out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
We're just doing kind of final balancing now.
I love that method that everybody in the office can essentially see what the playtester is doing. That's no pressure or anything.
Yeah. Well, the playtester is unaware of it until at the end of the play session.
Fair enough. If that were me, I'd be like, no, I died. Everybody's gonna judge me.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of, there was a game I was streaming the other day, and I'm a very competitive person. I don't put games down. So I was stuck on a boss for like 9 hours.
Oh man!
And I just did it straight.
Oh, what game was that?
I was playing the kill everything version of Undertale for the first time.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, because
which I've heard is the harder way to do it.
Yeah, I had streamed it for 3 days because my best female friend was like, "You haven't played it. You don't know anything about it. I'm gonna buy it for you, and I'm gonna come over, and you're just gonna stream it." I was like, "Okay." Like, I didn't have plans or anything, so we did that, and then we did I wanted to do the kill everything route, and she's like, "There's no way you can do it," and it was rewarding to me. I like challenging things. There's a reason I have a raid group in Final Fantasy XIV. I respond to that stuff. Like I will put in extra time specifically to beat stuff. I might not do it the fastest, and I'm okay with that. But I find that to be super rewarding, especially with a lot of games getting easier and easier. So even though, like, I yelled at Guacamelee and cursed at it quite a bit, I still felt accomplished, platining it before the DLC.
Yeah, that's cool.
But
and you did beat Undertale?
I did.
Awesome.
The kill everything was 14 hours and 30 minutes in total. I started streaming, I think, at 2, and I ended at like 5 in the morning.
Oh man, that's brutal.
And then the chat is like, "Hey, you should do hard mode next." And I was like, "No, I'm gonna." And then I streamed me deleting the game off my desktop. Like, I'm done with Undertale. Thank you very much. But yeah, when it comes to Severed, I'm very excited, and I like one thing that stood out to me when I played it was the health system, because it's very, I guess, natural is the word I'd use for it. It's unexpected, but it's literally a natural way you would regain health in real life, and I like that.
Yeah. Are you referring to like eating fruits?
Yeah, I thought that was really cool because because of the fact that it's a dungeon crawler, I feel like you can explore more than you could in Guacamelee, for example. There was something about that I really responded to, because I immediately wanted to find everything when I played the demo.
Yeah. I can't wait for you to try the full game, because the demo is such a tiny little snapshot of what we have in there now. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this idea of like when you're walking through the world, having fruits growing on trees and stuff, and you can interact with them and pick them up and eat them, and that's how you regain your health. Or sometimes when you kill monsters, the partially digested fruits will drop out of their stomachs when they die, so you're picking them up and eating those as well to get health back. There's a very visceral feeling to that way of getting health back. Yeah.
Tastes like a penny. I remember during the demo that there was the ability to explore, and there were rooms that it felt like I could go into. But obviously, because it was a demo, I didn't feel like I had full control of my exploration. And exploration is such an interesting part of that sort of game, because playing the demo is kind of tense because you don't know what's going to pop out at you. And so, do I explore and possibly get ambushed by 3 really hard monsters, or do I just continue with the story?
Yeah.
Choices.
Yeah.
So I very much like that, in a certain sense, you're both rewarding the player and punishing the player.
Yeah. In the demo, the demo for Severed was pretty challenging to put together because we have so many new mechanics to get across. So like the first half of the demo is basically all tutorials, and then we kind of let it. Then you enter a dungeon and we kind of let the player go, and that's when we first introduced like multi-enemy fights, and we introduced like 2 or 3 different enemy types, and then eventually it leads to a boss fight. But trying to pack all of that stuff into like a 10 or 15-minute experience, it's really challenging. Like, you really want to teach the player how to play the game and then give them a little bit of fun and have that happen in like 10 minutes. So the demo is like pretty linear, and there's no like hidden secrets because, we're trying to keep it as streamlined as possible. But then when you play the full game and you go into a dungeon, it really is kind of like a big open exploration thing that's happening there. The demo only had like a single level, like a single floor, like you're always on the ground playing. But in the full game, you'll find staircases. You're going underground. You're going above ground. You're making use of an interactive map to, track where you've been and where you have to go still. You'll see like secret items across broken walls, and you'll be like, oh, how do I get there? And you kind of work your way around to try and poke at the edges of the map and try and figure out how you're going to get to that, secret item so that you can get an upgrade for your health or your mana. So yeah, it's like comparing the demo to the full game, there's just so much more that we've packed in there, and I'm really happy of how it's all coming together now. So,
man, you're making me excited.
Yeah.
How dare you? No, I'm kidding. Well, since PlayStation Experience actually wasn't that long ago, it was in December. How was the feedback there?
Really positive. We had a very similar like 10-minute experience for the public. Because like I said, you have to teach so much stuff, and there's not a lot of time to show a huge amount of content. But we were also meeting with press there and just showing them the build of the full game and kind of jumping around and showing them different aspects to the game. The kind of like high level structure of the game, the way it works is as you progress through the game's dungeons, you meet bosses, and when you beat a boss, you cut up their body, and it leaves behind like a carcass. Which you take a piece of the carcass and you put it on yourself as armor. So, for example, the first boss, it's like an owl that you cut up, and a giant owl. When you cut out the owl, it leaves behind like a carcass that is like a helmet that you can put on. And the wings of the owl are kind of like sticking out of the top of the helmet. And when you put that on, you gain the power that the boss was using against you, which is it has like a blinding attack.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so from that point forward in the game, you have this blinding attack, which when you go into fights, you can blind an enemy and it kind of stuns them. It's like a stun, basically. It's just like a flash, and then they're stunned. And every boss is using a unique ability against you, and when you kill them, you equip their carcass, and you now gain that ability. And also, each one of those abilities has like an upgrade tree associated to it. So when you start the game, you start with a basic upgrade tree for your sword skills, because you get a sword right at the start of the game, and then as you get these new pieces of armor that you're wearing, you get new upgrade trees for each of those things. And the currency of the game that you use to upgrade with is the body parts that you're severing off of enemies in the normal battles. So every time you get into a new fight, you're building up a power meter while you're fighting, and the better you fight, the more quickly the power meter builds up. And once the power meter is full, every time you kill an enemy, they go into this mode where you can cut off their body parts. And at the end of each fight, there's just body parts littering the ground, and you can tap to pick them all up, and then you can use those body parts to upgrade your powers for all of the abilities that you've gained so far. So that's kind of how the game works, like at a very high level.
Well, I will wait with bated breath for the DLC where you release a chicken enemy, and I can wear a chicken suit. Or a pretty princess dress, whichever one.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming, you know, she begins to look more and more kind of grotesque by the end, considering she's not wearing clothes, she's wearing monster bits.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So she's becoming more and more powerful, but she's also looking more and more monstrous as you go through the game. Yeah. Yeah. And yes, and the game it's in a first person view, but there's mirrors throughout the world that you can look into as you're passing them, or you can look at yourself in the upgrade screen to see like how you're looking now that you've put on that new, you know, body carcass. Yeah.
I'm really curious how that'll affect story elements, you know, say somebody mistakes her for a monster or something along those lines. Obviously, you can't say anything, but
yeah.
I'm excited to see, you know, what becomes of that. But for the listeners out there that want to keep up to date with the game, I know you guys, I'm not sure exactly if I know you're delayed from summer of last year. Do you guys have a new release date, or are you still trying to pin stuff down?
We don't have a concrete release date, but we're gonna release pretty soon. I feel like we're only a few weeks away from submitting to Sony certification.
Yay.
And then if all goes well through that, as soon as we pass Sony certification, we're going to announce the release date. So it's not too far away.
Fantastic. Well, for the fans that want to keep up to date with that, where can they get updates?
The best place to get updates is if you follow us on Twitter at DrinkBox Studios, or you can also check severedgame.com. Those are probably the two best places to check.
And I also believe you guys have a Facebook too. I'm going to make sure to link that in our live chat, just so, because some people, I don't know, really hate Twitter, and they're in the Facebook camp, and I don't understand those people.
Yeah, there's a Facebook DrinkBox Studios as well, and we cross-post everything between there as well. It's a good place to follow us for sure.
Fair enough. I'm one of those people adamantly that's like, no, I like composing all of my stuff into 140 characters.
Yeah. Forces you to be brief, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it was so nice to talk to you and get a chance to talk about the game and all of that fun stuff, and I'm super looking forward to it, and I can tell our chat is too. Some of the comments are really great. Enemy limbs are currency. That's metal. But for the fans out there, since we're nearing the end of this interview, I was wondering if you'd be willing to participate in a 91.8 The Fan tradition.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Basically, we ask if you'd be willing to do a radio bump for us, or say a line for us. We ask everybody this.
Yeah, I can do that.
Cool beans. Then basically, I can type this too if this is hard for you. But basically, we ask if you could say, hello, my name is, you insert your name, I do this, you can put whatever you want. And you're tuned into 91.8 The Fan.
Okay.
So whenever you're ready.
Hello, this is Graham Smith from DrinkBox Studios. I make games, and you're listening to 91.8 The Fan.
Perfect. That wasn't so hard.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, thank you once again. And before, we say goodbye, if there's any parting words for the listeners, any words of wisdom, dating advice, predictions for the end of the world?
I don't know if I have any parting words of wisdom. I mean, keep an eye out for Severed, and yeah, I don't know.
Fantastic. Well,
yeah, that's it.
Hey, I think it's good dating advice too. Just keep an eye out for anyone who's severing limbs, and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
But for any of the fans out there that missed any of this interview, don't fret. You can find it on the website within the next few days. So keep your eyes peeled to 918thefan.com and your ears tuned to 91.8 The Fan, where we play everything you want and nothing you don't.